it put me as a liberal when in reality I'm not.
Yeah,
It
you
put
are.
you as a
But you
liberal.
are liberal.
How?
But I'm not a liberal. Wait, how am I a liberal?
When you say it put you as
Do
a
not
liberal,
scream at me. Do
when
not
you
raise your voice.
when you say it put you as a liberal, what do you mean?
I think that what I answered is what made the bias towards liberalism, which is really wrong.
Yeah, when it said liberal, what was the score
What do you mean the score?
on this
How am I
test?
gonna?
When you said when you took this test, it put you as a liberal. What does that mean?
I'm referring to what you mean when you say liberal.
What the fuck? You said when you took this test, it put you as a liberal. Where did you
Yes,
score?
from your view, the green gradient.
Yeah, where on it?
I would say, let's see, and in the middle of the green gradient.
So we're talking just left, not authoritarian, not the
No,
other.
but
Was it-
liberals do not belong in the green gradient, in my opinion.
Where are we going with this? No. So you scored where on the minus?
Why is this
Left and
relevant? Why are
right.
you, Wait,
why
how is
do
this-
You get to decide,
why is this
Why do you
relevant?
get to decide what people?
Why is it relevant for what?
Why are you asking me this all of a sudden?
So you
Wait,
can clarify your statement. When I took this test, it put me as a liberal. I want to know what that means. Where did it put you on?
This test puts people in the green gradient and makes them believe that they are liberal.
I'm not even talking about the green. I'm talking about the line that separates
I don't
red
know about
and green.
that. It's vague. How am I supposed to?
It's not that vague. It actually is more specific than what you're being.
Well, what do you mean by liberal? Like social liberal, classical liberal? Like what would the
Left
like
on the left and right? Where did it put you?
I already answered, JJ.
You didn't tell me.
Yes, I did. The green gradient. Do you want me to take the test again because it takes time, and I'm not going to take the test.
So to put you in the green gradient, you would have to have another score of authoritarian versus libertarian. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about where on the right left did it put you?
The right left? What does that mean?
Are we still talking about the same test?
Yes, but I don't know what you mean.
Well, are you looking at it right now? The thing that you just posted?
No, I am not. I use that as an example.
And that's what we're talking about, is that test that puts you as a liberal, as you said. So
the way you phrased it, yes, but I do not agree because I do not believe that the green gradient is liberalism. The liberalism would be on the purple.
Not even talking about the gradient.
So I don't even agree with what you perceive liberalism on the gradient to be.
I didn't even say what I thought it was.
Then where do you believe liberalism belongs? Let's just end this already.
This is irrelevant. This is actually irrelevant.
Okay.
I'm wondering, when you said it puts you as a liberal, you say it puts you in the green gradient. Now that's going to include
under your view.
That's going
under your view.
You don't even know what my fucking view is. It has nothing to do with anything.
You said that you belong. You're a left libertarian, and you are also on the green gradient, meaning that you also are a liberal, right?
I'm a left libertarian. I didn't say anything about liberal. You said it puts you as a liberal in the green gradient. I don't care about. I want to know what, as far as left and right, what was your score?
I don't know.
Dead center is 0.
Right, and I believe liberals belong there. Is that controversial?
So you got a score that was minus something on left, right, left versus right.
Score. That's not my score.
What?
I think you're twisting everything from now on.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Me neither. What the fuck are you talking about?
You got a score on this.
Yes. I don't know how that's relevant.
That's what we're talking about. Your score on this test.
I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about history.
Whoa. What the fuck just happened?
No,
we're talking about your claim that it puts you as a liberal on this test. Are we clear?
To what you thought as. This isn't a claim that I support, by the way.
What's not a claim that you support?
The thing that you're trying to shoehorn me in.
I'm not trying to shoehorn you.
Yes, because I do not support the view that liberals belong on the green.
Sure.
Jesus Christ.
He's saying,
let's go back. Let's go back. You said.
He's just saying.
Oh, you want to clear it up?
Yeah, I want to clear it up.
Clear it up, please.
He's just trying to find out what's wrong with this. You can say where you would be put on the chart and still disagree with the chart, because he's trying to figure out how wrong it is and where it's wrong. Right?
Can I clarify why I think the chart is misleading?
Sure.
You can, and you can say under this chart, it would put me here, and that's wrong because it's really this, and that would clear this up, and you can move.
But I wasn't referring to myself. I was referring to other people, not me. I know where I lie. I know what I read.
Sure. Okay. Well, then this chart is wrong. Where would you lie on it under the chart, and why is that wrong? That's all he's asking you.
Oh, that's simple. The green, in like either the very bottom or in the middle of the green, around there. But I don't see why that's important.
Like from left to right, and he's asking like, where would it put you either on left and right, and why is that wrong?
Where would it put me on left or right? I left. Okay, like where is this going? I'm confused. Did my internet get out?
Is this a dispute about the difference between liberal in the UK in Europe versus the United States?
I guess so.
No.
No.
Actually, I want to go back to what you said, that it puts you as a liberal.
But I'm not interested in that. That's interesting.
No, it's actually very interesting how you scored on it.
No. I'm more interested in talking about history and shit I've read about. I'm not going to let you like shoehorn me into like a straw man.
Straw man?
Yeah, you're trying to make me look dumb because of a mistake I could have said. But I'm not going to let you do that to me.
What mistake? What are you talking about?
No,
I don't want to make you look dumb. I want to make you look as smart as I can, in fact.
Well, that's why I said that like the whole thing is uninteresting.
You're making it difficult though. So
well, I'm already telling you I find it uninteresting. I'd rather talk about history.
So could you just guess, because you probably don't remember where
I do know, JJ. Where are you trying to like make me think I scored something and something I clearly took myself that I know I did?
Well, I assume that had you remembered, you would have said where you scored.
I already told you where I scored. Why are you making this difficult?
Well, no, you said vaguely in the green gradient, which is a wide range of -10 and -10 on two axes. I was only interested in the one axis of left and right, what you might have scored.
I already told you.
You
green.
didn't say. Green is not a score.
Yeah, but around there, is that enough?
No, that's still vague.
Well,
so on the left-right axis, was it -1 or was it -6 or was it -7?
How the fuck am I supposed to remember? It was in the middle, around the middle.
It's only vague. It's only vague insofar as like a number is concerned. But you can, I mean, like it's accurate to say based on that result, she's a non-authoritarian leftist, right? Is that not specific enough for you?
Please, what the fuck? Also, Pogan,
the authoritarian part didn't matter.
You want to know what's interesting?
What do you mean? That's what the y-axis is measuring. Authoritarianism.
Yeah, we were talking about that though. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you were critiquing her because what she told you was not, in your view, non-specific, right?
No, I was trying to get out of her where she fell on the left-right axis.
Left.
Left.
Yeah, is that not enough for you?
Where on the left-right?
I already told you the green gradient by the middle. Why do I need to be incredibly specific with you?
He's asking how much of a leftist you are. He's asking how far along the x-axis you are to the left.
If by the green gradient in the middle you mean -5, -5.
Yes, but that doesn't matter because I know I'm a far leftist. I've read far leftist literature. I do not need a test to tell me if I'm a far leftist. I'm self-aware as a far leftist.
I just wanted to know where you scored on the test.
I'm going to take the test now.
Why does that matter?
Because I wanted to know where you fell on the test.
I already told you, the middle.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
The middle of the green gradient, and I don't take that as serious.
Question 2.
Well, you didn't say the middle very often. You kept saying the green gradient, which is a big square.
I have this recorded, JJ, in case like you're trying to lie.
Yeah, in case I'm trying to lie.
Also, the green square isn't a gradient.
No one chooses his or her country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. And then it's asking me if I agree with that state. That's like, I don't know if it's foolish. You can be proud of also.
But so if you're -5 into the left, that answers my question.
I don't know if that does. I just think that like, I think you're being difficult for no reason.
Oh.
I don't think we should like classify people by name tags anyway. It's
Don't classify people by name tags. You classify
Okay, pie avatar
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
you classify someone by what they read in the literature and what they support. That's why when I say for people, instead of taking these weird political tests, it's better that they actually read the literature and see what they agree with the people that they read certain philosophies of or political theories of. I think that's more like interesting.
But JJ, I think I can actually get you to agree this test is kind of ridiculous. I know that's tangential, but take this question, right? Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. Well, I can conceive of a scenario where it is, right? Does that meet the criteria of the question? Is that enough for me to click agree?
The stupidest part of the test, it's agree and disagree.
Right.
Well-
like what does it mean if I agree to that statement? Yeah, I think it's conceivable that it's justified, sure.
One of the ridiculous things is it's not just agree or disagree. Doesn't there somewhat agree also? And somewhat
Strongly,
disagree? Yeah, right.
you can agree or strongly
So
agree.
There's 4 answers,
Those
which
are-
are either agree or disagree.
Those are oddly quantifiable, I guess. But
Isn't there like a
So-
random question that asks you about astrology also for some reason?
Yeah, and if you answer that question correctly, you immediately get the Hitler result.
there's a question about astrology. I don't remember that.
Yes. I took the test a bunch of times, JJ.
I've taken it a few. I
I
think
know
there's-
how to rig it to get like either right or left whenever and whatever quadrant I want.
I think there's not one set of questions either, isn't there?
They are divided into 6 categories by like economics, social issues, stuff like that.
But there are multiple sets of questions. You don't get the same questions every time, right? Pretty sure.
Obviously.
Don't think so.
Yeah.
But if I know the correct answers to use to manipulate the test to my liking, it's not that hard once you memorize it.
Well, you can make the same argument about an IQ test, right? The only way an IQ test is even moderately accurate is if you don't know what a fucking IQ test is going in, and you don't know how to take them, right? Like the moment
Depends on the kind of test.
Sure, but the moment you understand like the nature of an IQ test is the moment your score is probably going to be inflated.
Yeah.
Again, there are different tests.
So JJ, I'm more interested in a different claim. Why did you say that you can be a left libertarian but still Why did you say you can be a left libertarian and still be a capitalist? I'm interested in that claim.
Because you can, as long as
How?
Because you can have socialism with capitalism.
Here, Brenda,
No.
you'll probably know what this is referring to. So, question like 18 is protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. I don't know what protectionism is.
Protectionism? Oh, that's like
It's
protecting.
an economic thing.
Economic protectionism is when you protect, for instance, the companies in your
International
in your
trade,
country.
basically.
Yeah, by placing
Price fixing.
tariffs on imported goods, right?
Oh, okay. So, strongly disagree. Let's move on.
Including price fixing.
Yeah, basically it's anti-neoliberalism.
You think that's
sort of.
accurate, Hagar? Where this dumb test put me?
I think this test is dumb in general. I never take these political tests seriously, Skinny Pete. Like, I think the only way to know where you lie in is if you read literature and theory.
Where did
And
the test put you? Skinny?
I don't know what that means. Look at the picture.
Yeah, I see. Where did the test put you?
It said somewhere between Stalin and Gandhi.
That's
That's
ridiculous.
vague.
Yeah, that's
Well,
that's
where-
what it
wide
said.
berth there.
That's why this test is dumb.
Yeah, I'm somewhere between. I'm somewhere between Che Guevara and Hitler. Figure out
Well-
the rest for yourself.
If you look at the image that Hagar posted, somewhere between Stalin and Gandhi is up in the red quadrant.
Yeah, but that test, like, that's just an example. It doesn't mean it's also 100% accurate. It's just an example I used to show you where, like, you could, like, get result in, but the result in reality doesn't matter. Also, I'm not sure why Marxism is in, like, the green gradient. It should be in the higher up with, like, maybe even Lenin.
It's
Why?
I mean, both of the left quadrants are taken to be like leftism, Marxism. It's just, are you more of like a fucking Leninist, or are you more of an incom? That's basically what it's measuring.
Also, a lot of Marxists would dispute that Leninism is really Marxist.
Yeah, but let's say you read Anarchy, State, and Utopia one day and agree with every word of it, and then the next day you read Das Kapital and then agree with every word of it. Like, what does that even mean?
Just means you're a broad leftist, really.
Well, no, because Anarchy, State, and Utopia is considered a far right. Is considered a far right piece.
What? I thought it was like a left piece. Is that what it is?
No. Okay, so Anarchy, State, and Utopia is by Nozick, who is like a far right libertarian.
Was it like an ANCAP shit? Because I don't know much about ANCAP literature.
I guess, Nozick was the most respected, I guess, right-wing philosopher in American history.
He's pretty prominent.
Look at this question, right? There are no savage and civilized peoples. There are only different cultures. That statement's that's just a false statement, right? It's just like definitionally the case that there are uncivilized cultures. And if I answer that, am I Trump? Am I Hitler?
Yep.
I think conservatives would say that there are savages. I think people.
The savage part is what I'm contesting. But if it's just like there are civilized and uncivilized culture, that's just a fact, right?
I don't know about that.
Wait, what makes a culture civilized or uncivilized?
Yeah, so somebody who's more to the left.
Islam is uncivilized. I think Islam is uncivilized.
Well, I think that even primitive cultures are civilized. They just have different, more.
It's going to depend on like the social
definition of civilized.
Yeah, they're often very civilized. A lot of the Native
That's
Americans.
not true.
I keep saying, they're not civilized. What does that mean, though? What's the definition of a culture being what's the criteria?
Tom, what even is civilization?
There is, you can set forth criteria for social and cultural development such that if the criteria is not met, then it's an uncivilized culture. So there's a tribe off the coast of India. I forget what they're called. This Sentinelese. Yes, Sentinelese. Right. There's no reason to think they have any sort of social or cultural hierarchy or structure whatsoever. Right. We would call them uncivilized by that criteria. It doesn't mean they're savages, because that's kind of like a slur. But I don't think they're civilized.
Well,
and I don't think I don't think that's a bad thing to say.
That's what the test is measuring, in a sense, is how much of a slur you think being uncivilized is.
Well, no, let's just stick to the topic at hand, right?
Please.
Would, in that case, the definition of a civilized culture just mean having hierarchical structures within your society?
Well, people are civilized if they're like white Europeans, and otherwise they're not.
What? No.
No, I disagree.
In
fact, I'd make the case that a lot of Asian cultures are more civilized than Western cultures.
That's why you're a lefty. That's why you're a left.
How does that make any sense?
That's what the question is measuring.
So you're a leftist because you think what?
How much you're willing to give other people, a consideration, even if they're foreign and they're not like you.
That's not a lefty thing.
Well, it kind of is.
You can be like the most militant Marxist in the world. You can think capitalism is the embodiment of evil, etc., and you can still be a fucking racist. Right? There's no contradiction.
Exactly. Didn't Stalin
You're less likely to, and people on the right are more likely to think that people who aren't like them are uncivilized.
Well, this is why the test is flawed, though, because it tries to apply certain characteristics and stereotypes to a certain political leaning.
It's measuring what people believe. It's measuring what people believe, not what things are.
Yeah,
For the person who brought up the Sentinelese, here's a screenshot I took on December 4th, 2018 that I noticed.
Yeah, that was me.
I found very funny.
Not looking good for their Yelp page.
Yeah.
Yeah. If anyone recalls what happened then.
Some Christian missionary got murdered, right?
Yeah, but I like how there's a
yeah.
1-star review and there's one review.
26-year-old.
That's what really makes it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he didn't like his experience.
Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like this question: abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. What does that have to do with anything?
It's a cultural question. Like, really, this. So the idea of all of this, right, in terms of like, it's at least trying to gauge a question that it feels is meaningful for this, in a way that, what does it really mean to put someone on a political compass? Because there are questions about alignment that might not necessarily be reflected in just, are you socially or economically right or left? It might, because you could be like, hey, I support all these things, all these principles of like economic freedom and social freedom and various things like this, but at the same time, I'm talking to Nazis in my own time. I think SJWs are like, so so this is one of those questions that's trying to get at that, because of the fact that fascist movements have been very opposed to abstract and non-representational art, because fascism, for what it is, for all intents and purposes, isn't really a political ideology, in the sense that it's not about the role of government in everyday person's lives, so much as it is a social movement that takes place that is trying to that has some kind of like similarity to what we have called fascism in the past, in that it has these features maybe, but it's not really a defined ideology. Does it matter if a person has like a racial hierarchy kind of group and they talk about bringing back to the glory days, but at the same time their view on governance is like, does it matter if they want to go full Soviet Union in terms of their idea of what an economy should be, or does it matter if they want to go full like crazy libertarian? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because the essence of what they're doing is creating this kind of social movement based on like culture and glory and being exclusionary. So that, I think, is kind of a question that's trying to get you to think in some aligned with certain values, as opposed to just asking a question that has some clear and cut political line. At least that's what I would think.
Gotcha. Anyway, here are my results.
Yes, here you go.
Oh.
It's really easy to get into the green region on the political.
Not only that, but like I'm pretty sure you're more authoritarian, Pogan.
Yeah, I'm Leninist.
He's more authoritarian than I am. I'm like -6.
But what does that even mean?
Then you're more. I mean, well, yeah. What is authority?
Yeah, these are all kind of like meaningless. These are all kind of meaningless metrics, to be perfectly honest.
Words are just meaningless.
They're not meaningless.
There's no fact of the matter for any words meaning.
Their meaning can be a little ambiguous.
This is like full postmodernism right now. No words have meaning.
Well, I'm not saying no words have meaning. I'm just saying that like when you take this test, like, don't reify it. Don't treat it as though it's doing anything other than measuring how you responded to particular questions that were asked on it.
Okay,
I like
big
the
word guy.
All right, there's a more accurate one. I'll share the link to it. It's called 8 Values.
Again, what is accuracy?
What even is accurate? Right?
No, I like this isn't like when you have accuracy. If you're talking about something like a machine learning problem, it's a very easy metric.
What does accurate mean? Accurate means
accurate means the correct.
I mean,
Guy, classified examples.
Guy Pearson. Look, what even is a machine?
True.
Truth is a spook.
Right. The point I'm trying to say is that using these particular metrics to try to assess something that is as complicated as political views is losing information. It's losing a lot of vital information, and the prospect of even trying to get that information conveyed might be a bad kind of intention.
What even is an intention?
It's just a specific kind of disposition.
Reducing it to nothing.
So this test says I'm liberal and capitalist. That's can't work, Hagar?
Yeah.
But liberals are capitalists. That's not controversial.
You said
If you-
it wasn't.
I said
you
left
want
libertarians. Oh
policy-
my fuck! Can I actually like talk? I said left libertarians can't be capitalists.
Sure, they can.
No, they can't. Historically speaking, they never have.
Who says that?
This
That's not
question,
true.
this question in the 8 values test, the means of production should belong to the workers. Gee, I wonder where that one's
Capitalism
going to
is a
play.
spectrum.
So you think
Well,
that like? Oh my god! Do you think that the anarchists were capitalists then?
That doesn't follow.
That
Why
you
would
can
that
be
even
a
be a
left.
question?
You think a left libertarian can be a capitalist? Is that correct?
Yeah, but that doesn't. A left libertarian isn't merely an anarchist.
No, they can be a libertarian socialist. They can be an anarchist, anarcho-syndicalist, right? But I don't think the whole point of being a left libertarian is really to still support capitalism.
Well,
wouldn't
I
get
didn't
into
even claim that it
libertarian.
was.
You said you can be a left libertarian and a capitalist, right?
You can be.
But I explained to you why it doesn't make any sense because the
You
whole point of
didn't.
being I gave examples of like people who swing towards like anarcho-syndicalism, libertarian socialism, and so on, like communism, for example.
There's a
Where
bit of
are
a technical
worker
problem with the
co-ops on
bot
the
rule.
spectrum?
If you check in add rules, it can't give me the libertarian rule. It's saying
So-
it doesn't have channel permissions.
Where are worker co-ops? Where are privately owned worker co-ops on the spectrum?
Can a mod go
of-
check that out?
on the spectrum of capitalism to anarchism.
I guess I can't like even like anything.
So Hagar, giving examples of left libertarians who didn't support capitalism doesn't show that you can't be a left libertarian and support capitalism. You
Oh,
understand?
do you believe that everything on the left is inherently socialist?
To some degree, yeah.
So you believe that the whole point of having right and left is pointless then, since you think that you can be a right wing, a capitalist on the left then?
Say that again.
No.
Say that
You
again.
can be. You said you can be a capitalist on the left then, right? Because the left isn't inherently
Yes.
socialist. So that means this whole conversation is pointless then.
Why?
No, Hagar. Demarcation can exist.
I think
It's
it's
not where
pointless.
you want it to exist, but it
No,
can exist.
no. I'm using history to back up my claim.
You're using history.
Yeah, I'm using history because historically speaking, the
And
left
no-
libertarian. I guess I'll be interrupted. Go ahead, JJ.
And no time in history there were capitalist left libertarians.
Of course not.
So maybe
me
the
an
confusion
example.
here is what capitalism is.
No, we know what capitalism is.
I'm confused. When you say capitalism, you mean
Free market, laissez-faire, classical liberalism, egalitarianism.
so I'm
Well, those are more like liberal values, but like along, you know.
so when I say capitalism, I merely mean some kind of market economy.
You think the left supports market economies?
I'm saying that you can be on the left
JJ,
and still have market economies.
that's also not the leftist definition of capitalism. It's
Well,
not
that's
just-
why I brought it
No,
up. That's
that would-
why I called it into
Actually, like-
question.
But there's nothing about property.
Like you could be somebody who believes in communists in a capitalist society, but that doesn't mean
Right.
that communists are capitalists, right?
Look, there are plenty of people who are extremely wealthy and own private property and own factories who are sympathetic to socialism and communism, right? I don't think that's interesting to consider. What I think Hagar is trying to get at, and correct me if I'm mistaken, is just if you don't hold to fairly rigorous definitions of political ideologies, if you just say, well, capitalism is insert a wide variety of things here, then the utility of the term itself starts to decline, right? It starts
Yeah.
to have less utility.
Exactly. So like
That's
if you're
just
calling
as useless as what you said on the other side, Hogan.
What do you mean?
I mean, it's just as useless as what you said on the other
No,
side.
you don't
pulling
need
it to the other side.
When I say "what do you mean," you don't need to repeat yourself.
Well, that's
that's
what I
like a
mean.
prompt for you to explain what you
Like,
meant.
I'm not going to reduce it any lower than that. You're just agreeing with her. So let me ask you this: do you disagree with JJ?
If JJ's point is that somebody can be contradictory things, then of course I'm going to disagree.
What do you mean contradictory?
Well, that
left
certainly wasn't my
libertarian and
point.
capitalist, you don't think that's
Just
contradictory?
begging the question.
If he's understanding left libertarian to be a leftist who thinks capitalism ought to be maintained, I think that's a contradiction of terms, yeah.
Why?
Because leftism is generally defined as desiring the end of capitalism.
By who?
Political
Yeah,
theorists.
that's not what leftism is.
No.
I don't think.
Oh
they're
my
Um,
god, this is just gonna be like a neoliberal circle jerk now.
Left can refer to a lot of things.
It's
So
not
there's
interesting.
even- there are
Wait,
even-
JJ, look, don't you say shit like that's dumb, right? Of course it can. But what I just said 5 seconds ago was there's going to be more utility in giving a term necessary conditions like that, because if you say leftism could refer to this like wide umbrella of ideologies, then when we have conversations using that term, right, those conversations are just going to be nebulous in meaning. Nobody fucking knows exactly what anybody means anymore when they say X person is a leftist.
I understand that. That's why I tried to elaborate, and Hagar wanted to say that's not the definition of left, because she means something different.
No, I don't.
Yeah, but you know those sympathetic to Marx are going to have a definition of leftism that, as a necessary condition, requires stuff like desiring the end of capitalism, or at least being ideologically opposed to capitalism.
Sure. And so that's not broadly what left libertarian means, though. Left libertarian.
To be fair to JJ in some sense, I mean there is some form of left market anarchism and some sense, and also some concepts within left libertarianism where they do try to work with the system and also use social safety nets. That might not be the typical usage of that understanding, but in that small sense, he's not wrong in that regard. So,
Even private property.
No,
Even
I
private
know.
property.
Let me elaborate. I know what he's talking about. He's referring to mutualism. Mutualism is really in the middle. I'll actually say that right now. I'll bite that bullet. But like generally speaking, mutualism still aims for anarchism, though, and I think it uses the anarchist-like way to actually achieve the society to be anti-capitalist as well.
This is a lot like conversations with fundamentalists over whether or not Catholics are really Christian or not.
It's very similar.
So this 8 values test just told me that I'm a democratic socialist, which is fucking ridiculous. That's just.
I think it's probably true.
Have you talked to Pogan before?
I'm not a huge proponent of democracy.
But enough,
big hug.
But enough to be categorized that way.
Do you take progressives to be leftists in some sense?
Socially, sure.
See, I don't even agree with that. I think.
So what's the fucking problem?
I think in the United States. Well, let's use the U.S.
Skinny Pete, you overtalked me and confused things that I said.
We don't need to look. We don't need to get mad at each other. Look, in the United States, there are two parties, right? GOP, DNC, and I think both of those parties, by the terms that we generally utilize, would be considered right-wing parties, right-leaning parties at the least. Even though it's the case that the DNC is more socially progressive than the GOP, right? Their fundamental beliefs, maintaining capitalism, ensuring free markets continue to exist, ensuring private property is protected, constitute them as a right-wing party. So I think leftism and right-wing ideologies are probably best defined in terms of utility by economic considerations rather than social considerations. Because even if a DNC member or like one of you guys, for instance, like a liberal, came up to me and said, I support gay rights, I support trans rights, I support Black Lives Matter, and then I asked, are you a capitalist? Do you support capitalism? And they say, yeah. Right, that doesn't make you a leftist. You're still right wing.
Beautiful, Pogan. Couldn't have said it better myself.
I mean, it's better than being a fucking Republican, but that's not saying a lot, right? It's like it's like a lesser of two evils type dichotomy.
You're saying
accept
right wing,
it all or accept none.
You're saying right wing equates to capitalism?
I think I'm saying that leftism and right wing ideologies are best, and by best I mean have the most utility, best defined by economic differences rather than social differences. Right? The reason fascists are called fascists is not because they're racist or they're anti-Semitic or anything like that. They're called fascists because they're authoritarian capitalists. They want control of some aspects of the economy, but also want to maintain private property. That's what makes fascism fascism.
I don't agree with that. But
Hogan, do you think you are applying a Marxist bias in your categorization of these things?
Well, it depends on what you mean by bias. If you just mean I'm using concepts that Marx uses, then yeah, obviously.
No, I mean that everything to the who supports capitalism is right wing. To make a statement like that.
Yeah, I think leftism is defined. I already said this, didn't I? Leftism is defined as being ideologically opposed to or desiring the end of capitalism.
I don't agree with that.
Well, the
And
original
that's
left and
what I
right
mean by
It's
predate
dumb. You're just fucking
bias.
pigeonholing it into fucking economics. It's stupid.
the
I don't
term
consider
left and right
I don't consider
predate
there to be I don't consider there to be a significant distinction between politics and economics, Skinny.
Yes, I do too.
You have, I think Lost Soul hit it on the head.
So
What did Lost Soul say? Sorry?
I don't know Lost Soul said
I
anything.
said that he's applying a Marxist bias to his analysis.
Well, that's probably true, but I don't think
Using a
that
Marxist
matters.
bias? Wait, do you think I'm using a Marxist bias?
What's the interest in pointing out human beings talking about political views are going to be biased?
well, because we're defining out how we use a shared word. That's why.
I thought when people refer to right wing versus left wing, they typically mean, like at least in the political compass sense, they're saying capitalist versus socialist.
Left and right predates Marxism.
That's the point, right? Like, it doesn't, like, you wouldn't, it seems odd, and by seems I mean kind of flies in the face of political theory, to say that an American liberal, a Democrat, who may have socially progressive views but is fundamentally still a capitalist, is a leftist, right? That's a very strange thing to describe that person as.
But see, like, I kind of see what they're saying about the Marxist lens as far as labeling liberals, for example, as right-wing. Because, I mean, as I take it, somebody who supports, like, a mixed economy or whatever, like Keynesian economics, I consider that to be, like, more just, like, centrist in terms of economic view.
That's fair.
Centrist
It's
to
reasonable.
the left a little bit.
What? You could still have like a mixed market economy and still have it capitalist. You could have like a controlled, planned economy and still be capitalist. China, for example, is state capitalist.
Yeah, nobody.
China is state communism.
No, we're not getting into this again.
Are you, Brenda?
So what about
Brenda? Brenda, are you trolling? Brenda, come on, Brenda.
No, that's how it's defined in political science.
No, it's not.
China
Actually,
in no sense of the word is a communist nation.
Well,
it absolutely
in some
is.
sense.
Marxist,
I mean, it
Leninist,
used to be.
Single state.
But to say that
single state
China-
party.
Used to be doesn't mean it is though.
It's the closest China got to constituting a socialist or a communist country was under Mao, towards the beginning of Mao's reign. But ever since then, China has, as we all know, become a state capitalist entity, right?
That's
They have
false.
no issue whatsoever with facilitating private property and private enterprise at all. And they don't, I mean...
They aren't. They aren't. Those are not
What?
really state. Those are not really private. They're just private in name. They're
Well,
still
they are
government-
private, however temporary.
and they're still ruled. They're still ruled by the Central Party, and the Central Party is Marxist-Leninist.
No, that's not true. There are private businesses all throughout China.
It still runs efficiently on markets in general. It still runs
They're
efficiently
not
on
private.
markets.
Those businesses are not private.
Wait, Brenda,
Why are you saying they're not private?
Can you buy stock?
That's not a requirement for a business to be private.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yes, it is.
No, it's
So
not.
They are run,
do you think
by the
Valve?
state.
Hold on. Do you think Valve Corporation, the game development company, is a state-owned enterprise? Because you can't buy stock in Valve. Right.
Valve is a multinational.
That's not the question. I asked you if it was a state-owned enterprise in virtue of the fact that I can't buy stock in Valve.
You can buy stock in Valve, can't you?
No, you can't. It's a private business. They don't have a public offering.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So as far as private property in, say, China, it's not really wholly owned by anybody. The state can take it at any moment.
well, yeah, it's a corporatocracy too.
So that's
Yeah,
left libertarians even can have private property, but it's more of a stewardship.
No, they don't.
That could be true
Of course
of
they
any.
can.
That's
That could-
neutralism, what you're thinking of. It still falls sort of in line with left libertarianism, but that's not
Like
the
I
goal.
said.
Though.
Like I said.
Sure, sure.
Working within the confines of the law isn't like tantamount to a system not being capitalist, right? Like any state could take over a company.
Wait, do you define like state ownership to be inherently
By law?
socialist?
Who are you asking?
My question?
Yeah.
Do you believe that like for something to be socialist it has to have state ownership? That's like if the state owns something that's inherently socialist or something.
I don't think that.
My teacher is my fucking philosophy teacher is such a fucking just absolute moron. So I get my apologies for interrupting. I get this. I get
changing the subject.
Yeah, this is boring. We're just going around a circle.
It is kind of boring.
So she sends me this email because I asked for feedback on a paper, saying, quote, "The definition of validity says an argument is valid if and only if it is impossible for the argument to have all true premises and a false conclusion." Okay, so in my paper, right, I write the following. An argument form is deductively valid if and only if there is no instance of that form with true premises and a false conclusion. If the premises of an argument are contradictory, they're false by definition. Thus, an argument with contradictory premises is either 1, an argument with false premises and a false conclusion, or 2, an argument with false premises and a true conclusion. When an argument's invalid, there's at least one possible form in which all of the premises are true while the conclusion is false. Contradictory premises indicate that the premises are false, therefore it's not possible for the premises to be true while the conclusion is false. Thus, an argument with contradictory premises can never be invalid and must be valid. What part? What part of that is wrong?
That's actually totally true. It follows from the whole thing of if you take a true statement and assume it's false, then you can prove anything.
This fucking teacher is like.
I was ready to side with the teacher, but you're right.
What was she like saying was wrong about it?
That she said my definition of validity was wrong, even though that's like straightforwardly in logic what it means for an argument to be valid or invalid. Right? If there's a form where the premises are true and the conclusion is nevertheless false, then it's invalid. That's what it means to be invalid in logic.
What subject does she teach?
Just take a screenshot and send her a question mark.
But I mean, so the thing is, if you actually if you have contradictory premises, then you can then all arguments from them could be valid insofar as you can prove anything if you assume the truth of contradictions.
Right, but so in an argument, if the premises contradict each other, right, that means the premises are going to be false by definition. That's what a contradiction is. And because in order to have an invalid argument, the premises have to be true while the conclusion is false, it's never going to be the case that argument is invalid. Ever. It's impossible for that argument to be invalid.
Could you write that out, please, Pogan?
I'll just
people in text are asking to have it written out.
I'll just paste the part of my paper.
The part that's questionable is in logic. Strictly speaking, you can take a bunch of contradictory principles and assume they're truth, right? There isn't something that necessarily says, like the problem with contradictions is this a reduction to absurdity of you can prove anything from a contradiction, including all absurdities, right? So we do throw that out, but in terms of validity, it's not that matters that those things are really false. If you take those as true, then you can prove anything, just like you said. Whereas whether or not that's allowed is like, we don't allow that, but it's not a part of the validity aspect of an argument, right? So, but mostly it sounds like what happens with teachers is if you go a step beyond what they asked, you know what I mean? Like you obviously said what a valid argument was, but then you made this other argument, that will confuse your slower teachers.
What's the subject? Oh, just
logic.
Well, it's no longer politics now. We've segued on to Pogan's issues with his logic teacher.
Pay fucking $2,000 to take this fucking class. I demand respect.
Didn't you bring this up before in here?
Yeah, this paper's been assigned for a while, and this is like the second time I've asked her to go over it because I was like, she raised the same issue the first time, and I was pretty sure.
I didn't mean to explain it again. Sorry, it was just a yes or no answer.
All right, fuck you then, lost soul. Damn.
Haha. Gotta learn to be succinct, Poker. Lost Soul's a busy man. He's got shit to do.
Yo, Pogan, turn on your noise suppression.
Okay.
So if Trump says he's taking action on Chinese apps, is he gonna try to fuck with my AliExpress sales? Because I'm gonna be real upset.
I thought he was just banning TikTok.
No, now he's apparently targeting Chinese apps.
Then I would worry.
I'm gonna be pretty sad if TikTok is banned. There's like a lot of great memes on TikTok.
Yep. There's a lot of
Ali-
great there too.
Alibaba's going to stick around because he hates Jeff Bezos, and that's the major benefit of them being blocked in the U.S.
If he cancels TikTok, you're going to get youth vote at it. I mean, the TikTok, like I have a son that's about to be a senior in high school. TikTok is like ridiculous. Like it's one of the main things. Even the ones that hate it are like, but it's my guilty pleasure. So it's like he's going to get the attention of the youth if he bans TikTok.
Not only the attention of the youth, the attention of suburbans, right? Karens, as we call them. They're into TikTok too, aren't they?
Are they? I don't know. It's like TikTok's way out of my radar other than it's happening.
Well, I would just think that any kind of it's kind of a silly social media thing. So I would think that quite a lot of the people he counts as his constituents would would really enjoy TikTok. I would think, right?
But Brenda, don't you think the Karens are more for Facebook still? Because don't older people, and not a knock against all older people, but don't older people transition to new platforms more slowly?
Well, they all have cell phones, and they can click a link that says TikTok, and then they can watch funny videos. I mean, I don't know. I'm sort of asking the question because I don't know, because I don't have any context with suburbia.
Gotcha.
But I would think that suburban moms, that's what we're talking about. Suburban people in general can click on a link on their cell phone and watch TikTok videos, right? And they would be into it. That and Instagram. Instagram is another one, and others
Well, it's
too.
got a lot of users. So that
Look, I use TikTok to watch funny memes, and I use Instagram to look at sexy butts. So I don't think the two are really comparable in that regard.
You're not looking at butts on TikTok?
Like, there's a lot of
not primarily, no, because
you're doing it wrong.
It's unfortunate. You're missing a lot of good stuff there.
TikTok is mostly like 13 to 16-year-old black guys who play video games making fun of other people who play video games, which is funnier than you think it is.
That's not what comes up in my feed.
Yeah, I just follow like fuck boys.
I think it's because I liked one TikTok where he trolled some guy over Xbox Live, and now all I get are these fucking like gamer memes just endlessly. Is there a way to refresh your feed, just like get new things that aren't all the same?
Need more TikToks? Ironic thing is that on a watch, TikToks happen regularly, all by themselves.
Pogan.